Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial from my group on how to cut this stylish funnel corset. And this dress is from Precious Apparel. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. And to also join our Telegram/sewing community, you can go ahead to send us a message on our WhatsApp number. So to start, here is my pattern and I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements. So if you do follow me on my channel, you're going to know how to mark this out. So for this pattern, I marked my shoulder to bust, under bust, waist and blouse length. So for the blouse length, I added 5 inches after my waistline, and for the shoulder, I marked my shoulder divided by 2 and I added ½ inch because this dress has a sleeve. So the next step I'll be taking from here is to mark my dart. So for my dart, I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead to mark this and draw out a straight line. The next step is to mark your dart intake. For my dart intake, which is 1 inch on both sides, for a plus size, go ahead to use 1.5 inches on both sides. So for this pattern, I want to give it a slopey effect at the waistline at ½ inch, and here I'm marking 1.5 inches. So at this point, I'll go in by 2 inches at this point. So remember, my dart intake is 2 inches. If you're marking your normal dart, you'll be marking 1 inch on both sides, which I did at the under bust pattern. Going down to the waistline, I came out by 1.5 at this front part, and at the blouse length I came in by 2 inches. So I'll just go ahead and draw out a line connecting this. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to start connecting from the other side also. Connect from your under bust down to the waist, and then you're going to connect down to where you have your nipple to nipple mark, making it the part that I have the 2 inches. So after this, I'm just going to go in with my marker and I'm going to go ahead to outline. Next, you want to place your curved rule, connect from the bust to the under bust, and also repeat this at the other side. After you're done marking this, go ahead and use your marker to outline. So next, I'll be working on the upper part. I'll go ahead to mark my basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect this. After I'm done marking this out, I'm going to divide the rest of my shoulder by placing my tape, and I'll fold it into 2. So after this, I'm going to mark the midpoint, place my ruler, and I'm going to connect, drawing out a straight line at this point. Now I'm going to go ahead to mark a 2 inches dart at that point, and I'll be blending it down to the bust line this way. So after I'm done marking this, I'm going to shade it out and also outline this to indicate that I have a dart on this pattern. But before doing that, these 2 inches here you took out, you're going to extend it and replace it back to your pattern, and you're going to mark it towards your armhole this way. So make sure that what you have is the same, that is the 2 inches you took out is the same at the shoulder, and then go ahead to blend it out. So blend in your dart lines and blend in your shoulder, and make sure it has that shoulder slant at the upper part. So now I'll go ahead and outline this also. So next, I'll go ahead and mark my measurements. So for this part, I'll be marking my bust circumference divided by 4, and go ahead to measure the dart intake I have here. So to avoid having gaping on my pattern, I will not use the exact dart. I'll just add ½ inch and add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. I'll go ahead and mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace it. Here I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4, and I will replace the dart intake and add ½ inch also for my sewing allowance. For the blouse length, go ahead to mark your hip circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, replace and add your sewing allowance. So my bust circumference is 33 inches divided by 4, I have 8.3. This is what I used at the bust. For the under bust, my under bust measurement is 28 inches divided by 4, I have 7, which I replaced the dart and added ½ inch for sewing allowance. My under bust and my waist is the same, and For the hip measurement, my hip is 40 divided by 4, I have 10. Replacing the dart intake, and then go ahead to add my sewing allowance for my pattern. So after this, I went ahead to outline with my marker, outline the neckline of my pattern, and next we are going to mark the bust dart. Now, to get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist at the front and your shoulder to waist at the back. The difference means your shoulder to waist in front minus your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17 inches. My shoulder to waist at the back is 15 and a half. So if you take 15 and a half out of 17, you're going to have 1.5 inches remaining, which I'll go ahead to mark. So after I'm done marking this, I'll come down by ½ inch from my chest line or the bust. Go ahead to connect and blend in my dart when I'm drawing out the sweetheart neckline, and I'll connect this back to my pattern by the side. So this is what I have, and I'll come down by ½ inch after the bust line and then go up after my chest line about 1 inch, or from where my pattern stop, the bustier pattern stop, I'll go up by 1 inch. So the next step now is to create a style line because I want to snatch my waistline. I'll go ahead and draw out this line. After I'm done marking this, the next step I'm going to take is to decide what I want to snatch. So I want to take out 4 inches from my waist. So that 4 inches, my waist is 28 minus 4, it will give me 24. What I'll do is that 4 inches, I'll divide it by 4 because we are folding our pattern by 4. So if you divide it by 4, it will give you 1 inch. So on one part of your corset pattern, you're going to be marking 1 inch dart intake. That is, you're going to take out 1 inch dart intake from your waistline. So that 1 inch, if you share it on both sides, you'll be having ½ inch. So that's why I marked ½ inch on both sides of the style line, giving me 1 inch on the waistline. So after this, I'll shade this out. I'll go ahead to mark out the conical effect of the corset. So now I'll come up by 2 inches after my blouse length and mark. So I'll go ahead to connect this, drawing out this shape. After that point, I'll place my tape and I'll come out at least by 1 inch or 1.5 inches from my waistline, and I'll connect. So for your conical effects, you can use at least up to 3 inches, 2 inches, but for here I'll be using 1.5 inches, and after this I'll go ahead to label my pattern. So this is what I have so far, and we are done drafting out this front part. And if you haven't yet subscribed at this point, please go ahead to hit on the subscribe button. And I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern, and remember you're going to blend out your darts also when you're cutting out. So for this part, when I'm cutting it out, you have to pay attention. And another thing I forgot to say is that you're going to place a pattern paper underneath the bustier area of this pattern. So while you're cutting it, you will be replacing the yoke, part of the yoke of this dress, with the pattern paper you have underneath it this way. So watch carefully as I cut this out. So if you notice, I placed a pattern paper underneath, so I'll be using that pattern paper to complete the yoke part of this dress, just like I'm doing here. And this is what I have. I'll go ahead to use my tape to tape it up because I don't want to cut out the part of this dress that has that pointy effect going towards the chest line. So after replacing that, I will go ahead to cut out my pattern, right? This is what I have now on this part. So I'll go ahead and cut out the rest of my pattern too. Remember also to blend in your dart. And here I will go ahead to cut this out. And just like I said, you're going to place a pattern paper underneath because we're going to use it to replace the bustier part of this pattern. So while you're cutting this, go ahead to raise it up and trace out exactly what you have there. Also remember to blend in your dart, very important because we are using a bust dart for this pattern. Also go ahead to cut that out for the front part and cut out the upper part which you're not using. So after I'm done cutting, this is what I have. Now we'll be moving over to the back pattern where I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements. If you notice also, the back pattern is slightly shorter than the front. If I place my tape, you notice that what I have here is shorter because of the bust dart of 1.5 inches. The waistline of the back is actually 15.5. So next, you want to go ahead to mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2, and you're going to connect this all the way to the lower part. After you're done connecting, the next step you're going to take is to mark your dart intake of 1/2 inch on both sides of this pattern. And after I'm done marking that, I'll come down by 1 inch from the bust. Now I'll go ahead to place and connect, and also connect at the other side of the pattern. After I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this, and I will be extending this all the way to the lower part of this pattern, and I'll go ahead to connect also. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, add 1/2 inch for sewing allowance, mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance, and also go ahead to mark my hip measurement divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance at the waist, at the top length. And after this, I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll come up by my blouse length just like we did for the front, and I will connect. So after I'm done connecting, to give it that conical effect, I'll still go out by that same 1.5 inches, and I'll go ahead and draw out this shape. So if you're not sure of your shape, you can go ahead, the conical effect shape, go ahead to use your front pattern to trace it out. So I'll mark another style line here, and this style line, I'm also using it to snatch my waist just like we did for the front pattern. And I'll go ahead to still mark that 1/2 inch on both sides of this pattern, and I'll go ahead to extend this up and also extend at this side. Go ahead to take it all the way down and also repeat the same thing at the other side. So after marking this, now you want to go ahead to use your marker to outline to make it visible for you to see. So the next step is to go ahead to work on the yoke area of this dress. So I came down by 1 inch, and at the nipple to nipple line, I went in by 1 inch or 1.5. So next, I'll go ahead to mark the lacing bar area of this pattern. I'll come in by 2.5 here, and at the lower part, I'll come in by 1 inch. After I'm done marking this, I'm going to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to draw out a straight line at this point. After I'm done marking this, I'll just go ahead and I will outline. After I'm done outlining, I'm going to mark at least 0.5 inch and connect it back to the chest line. This is to make sure that the lacing area does not pop up. And on the yoke, I marked 0.3 inches to get rid of the bulginess there. So after this, I'll go ahead to cut out my pattern. So if you have any question regarding this tutorial, please don't forget to leave your question at the comment section. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead and hit on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up and also join us in our next video. So for those that also want to join my WhatsApp group, you can go ahead to send a message on our WhatsApp number, which is on our YouTube bio. You can go ahead to check that, or also on our TikTok bio. That's where you can get our number. Thanks.